It flipped to being Republican-led and has remained so for the last 20 years, which is also a reminder to us of how quickly that can change and how much work we have to do in front of us. But before even becoming a representative, he served as a sergeant at arms while attending St. Edward's University in Austin. 16 years later, his older brother, Greg Bonnen, actually became a state representative. The same year, he became Speaker Pro Tem. And under former Speaker Scott, he and his wife Kimberly have 2 boys. And beyond his political resume, he's the CEO of Heritage Bank in Pearland and is active throughout his district as a supporter of Boy Scouts, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the Chamber of Commerce, and in 2009 was named Houston Business Journal as an inaugural 40 under 40. So let's give a round of applause to Speaker Dennis Bonnen.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I was told to give just very brief comments and then we'll take some questions. So we're happy to do that. But it's great. You know, one of the biggest problems we have in the Republican Party, and I feel like we've always had it, is having young people engage in the process and having young people not just say I'm a Republican, but go out and be active as a Republican, be active in our party, be active in our grassroots. And quite candidly, have candidates. We need female candidates in the Republican Party more than ever before. But we have to show candidates that they will have the support behind them to be successful when they choose to run. And so I think it's great that y'all are engaged and involved, because without your involvement, we don't have a way to encourage those candidates, and particularly female candidates, to put their name on the ballot. Because it's a huge commitment to put your name on the ballot. You're opening yourself up to all kinds of things. Quite candidly, things you can't even guess may come your way when you put your name on that ballot. But it helps when you know you have a team of supporters behind you when you make that commitment to that effort. And the truth of it is, in Texas right now, I think we're in a good spot, but I think we're in a pivotal spot. I think right now, whether we like it or not, we have a choice in Texas of whether we're going to keep Texas red or it's going to go purple. And purple, after that comes blue. And so the reality of it is, if we don't have good candidates, we don't have good grassroots, we don't have good efforts being made, we're going to regret it. We lost 12 Republican members in the Texas House just a couple months ago. We thought worst case it'd be 7, 8, 9, a really bad 9, 12. And that has a real impact. Now, a lot of folks don't recognize that impact. Even I was slow to recognize that impact. But when I was helping put committees together in the House, every member has to be on 2 committees. Well, guess what? I'm not making a joke when I tell you this. You have this big, huge whiteboard, and I look at the folks in the room that are working with me on my staff, and I said, we have too many Democrat members not on a committee. I said, we have a problem. They said, yeah, we're going to have to rebalance some of these committees because you've got to put them on a committee. And that's why most of the committees in the Texas House are 5 to 4, 6 to 5, because we're not able, with the numbers that we have it be any different. It makes a difference. It has a real impact. I'm proud of the fact that we made sure that the State Affairs Committee, Ways and Means Committee, and Public Education Committee did have a little more of the margin on those committees, so that we can be certain that the top priorities, not that everything isn't a good priority, but the top priorities would be in a better hand and less in question. And so elections have consequences, and if we don't engage and work and make the effort, we're not going to be in the successful positions that we are in now. One of the things I'm most proud of is being new and being speaker. 2 things. One, I spent 22 years in the Texas House. I'm a member of the House. For me, it's awkward being speaker, being very honest. I prefer being a member. I don't like members treating me differently because I'm now the speaker. I'm just another member of the House who, in a weird decision made by my colleagues in a weak, odd moment where I'm sure they'll get passed eventually, they let me become speaker. But the other significant difference for me, too, is that the governor and the lieutenant governor and I are working incredibly well together. We had breakfast again this morning. Every Wednesday morning, the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor and I had breakfast. And we have a regular dialogue. Literally, before I walked over, had a phone conversation. Governor Abbott gave me a phone call to follow up and raise another issue that we're working together on from breakfast this morning. That's when we have a Republican speaker, a Republican governor, a Republican lieutenant governor. That's the level of working together that should exist. And I'm very proud that we have that happening between the three of us. Because, as the lieutenant governor said at a conservative gala last night where he received an award and they allowed me to speak for a few moments, as the lieutenant governor said, as I made a commitment to him, we may disagree. No, not we may. We will. We will. But you won't read about it. It won't be disagreeing through press. It'll be professionally, respectfully with each other, face to face. And we'll work through it the way leaders are supposed to work through things on making policy. And those disagreements don't have to become disagreement. We just have a little different direction, a little different touch to the solution. But none of the disagreements that we're having as Republicans are the level of disagreement that we have with some of our Democrat friends. And we have to keep that in mind, because the reality of it is, I think, another lesson of this election is we have to bring as many people into the fold. The clearest indication of the November election, and this is horrifying, intelligent women said, we're not interested in voting for Republicans. Mm-hmm. We can show hundreds of thousands of Republican women who voted for Democrat candidates. Yep. We've got to be cognizant of that. We've got to be respectful of that fact. We need to think about the way we're crafting our message, what issues we're pushing, what issues we're not pushing, and more importantly, when we push an issue, do we talk about it in the most respectful and appropriate way? I'll give you a quick example. I'm very proud for years of defunding Planned Parenthood. Well, the reality of it is what we should be saying is that we don't want taxpayer dollars going towards abortion efforts. That's a little more appealing of a message to women. And so we need to we don't have to change our positions, but we need to change our language. We need to change the way we express our perspective. And we have to remember that women matter in this state. They matter everywhere. They matter in this state. And the reality is, if we are not making women feel comfortable and welcome to telling their friend or neighbor that they voted for Republican candidate X, Y, or Z, we will lose. And we should lose. Truthfully, we should. And the Democrats are making an extraordinary play for women. I talked to a Democrat member on the floor and I said, I don't want you to get mad at me. I said, but I keep getting asked about why there aren't more Republican women in the House. Well, I told them, you beat one. And another one beat one. And then if anyone wants to have control over me over elections, I will take it in a heartbeat and you won't be here. I would be honored to have the power as Speaker of the House to pick the members on the floor. The last time I checked, I don't have that power. But I'll take it. Bring it to me. We'll take it. But we have to be cognizant of that, because those elections matter. They have a consequence to them. And the most important thing of all is we pay attention and we're willing to rethink our strategy and think about how we conduct ourselves and the way we want to move forward and what we want to do. Final thing I'll point out, speaking to that, and this is an issue for everybody, but it's one mistake I think we make often, not just as Republicans, but as political candidates and political parties. Education speaks to everybody, but is amplified to women. My wife cares a lot about education issues. Does that mean I don't? Absolutely I do. But I got to be honest. While I'm doing state representative and now Speaker of the House, my wife's the one who makes sure my 14 and 13-year-old boy's education is watched daily. So do you think when she hears the words education, her ears perk up a lot higher and hotter than mine? Yes, they do. Does that mean I care less about education? No, it doesn't. But we have to remember when we talk about these issues, who we're talking to and why we're talking about them. But the number one priority of the Texas House is public education, school finance reform, property tax reform, because they're all tied together. And the Lieutenant Governor's talked about teacher raises. There are ways to do that. You think a mother in suburban Texas and urban Texas doesn't want to hear Republican members of the legislature care about and value their child's teacher? Absolutely they do. And though my point of all this is that we don't have to, and I hate saying it this way, but it's God's honest truth. The last thing we should go do is look like we're pandering. Because let me tell you the other thing I pointed out in the very beginning. I'm talking about very capable people here. Intelligent, educated women. They're going to know we're pandering before we even start to. So we better not do it. But we better be real and we better be sincere. And when we say we will do something, we better go do it. Because I think what we learned in the last election, and I'll close and open the questions with this, is that the most astute and precise voters in Texas told Republicans, you better start thinking about how you're handling your business. And I think the most astute, precise voters are women. Men, we're really bad about going, it's not that big a deal. You know? Bonnen was really offensive, but I like the guy, right? Women go, no, I'm done with it. Right? So better watch that. Because for men, we're whatever, right? We better be careful. And not just because we want to stay in control. The truth is, we're not doing something right if we're offending women, right? We're just not. We're not doing something right, more importantly, if we're not making women excited to tell their friends and neighbors, I am going to the polls and I am voting for Morgan Meyer and you should come with me. Anyhow, I'll stop. I can roll on, but I'll stop. Questions. I frankly enjoy questions more than anything because I can ramble at you forever, but let's talk questions.
Well, if you guys can, there should be cards. Can you pass out the cards? And yeah, there should be cards and pens. If you can hand those in, that'd be great. Great. Awesome. Thank you guys very much. I'd actually like to start with a few young Republican-related questions.
Absolutely.
You guys started in the 90s. There's actually a heyday of young Republicans. Do you ever remember yourself?
Well, I don't know, not to sound silly, I don't know if I was a member of the Young Republicans, I was a member of the College Republicans, and I think we were also connected in with the Young Republicans at the same time. Actually helped Chad Wilbanks, and I'm not sure where Chad is today, but he's worked for Governor Perry and been in the Capitol for years. He and I actually helped start the young college Republicans at St. Edwards in the early 90s.
And can you explain a little bit about the changes? You saw the House shift, going from a Democrat-led House to up at one point 101 Republicans, and now we're at 83. What changed over that time? What's some things that we need to make sure that we don't see that flip back?
I think what changed is exactly what changed. The changes that have occurred are identical. It's all the same for Democrats and Republicans. And it's what I was just discussing. The Democrats went too far to the left, and it's what they're doing in Washington today. And God bless them. Any way we can encourage them. Sounds good. I couldn't have been more excited. I was not capably able to watch, but I was elated for Elizabeth Warren to announce for president on Saturday or Sunday, whenever she did that. I thought it was fantastic. And I think it's even better that I'm incapable of even watching a minute or two of that presentation. But anyway, they went too far to the left. We talked about intelligent things in the middle and to the right. We talked conservative values. And they were way off. We are now, and it's the issue with women voters, we are now going too far to the right in our language and our issue focus. And so they're saying, and Democrat candidates are talking more, I mean, think about this. And I was going to say I should be careful, but I don't need to be careful, I don't care. Beto O'Rourke is basically a socialist.
Yeah.
No, he is.
Yeah.
He is. Campaign talking about, I don't care what party you are, we're going to come together and I'm going to work with Republicans and Democrats. I think even his Democrat buddies were going, man, you're nuts. I can't even work with you. But he said the right type language and he nearly fooled a lot of people. So we have to remember, whether we like it or not, we now have to win races in November, and that's the other factor. Democrats have the same problem we had in seeing the shift over the 20 years. Democrats got to where they won races in primaries and didn't care about generals. We've gotten where we win races in primaries and didn't care about generals, and then the generals start to matter and get cut. And that's what happened to them, and it's what just happened to us. And so we've got to remember that we have to be able to win when they win.
There's a growing divide between rural and urban in Texas, whether it's HB2 or even in the rules debate. We saw this on some of the rules discussions. How's the legislature handle that divide?
Well, I think part of what we just discussed, part of that divide is having a better dialogue and a better relationship. The rules debate, I assume you're talking about the witnesses being able to register and what have you. And I'm not trying to pick on, I think that was Stickland's amendment, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to pick on Jonathan. We're good friends. I like Jonathan. But here's the example. Do the work. Most members of the House aren't opposed to letting people register in a district office for witness affirmation. But no one did any work on that in the 18 months leading up to session. And guess how you kill good conservative legislation? You have a bad witness affirmation, you call a point of order, and I don't have a choice but to sustain it, and the bill's gone. We've got to do the work. That's the other problem we have. And I don't mean Stickland, I mean in general. When you have 101 members, when you have 95 members, you get lazy. You just go, oh, I can slink, whoop, there's my bill. Ding, 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 95 votes, it's passed. We get lazy. I think and I stayed out of the rules. I think the rules is a document owned by the membership that cedes authority and power to the speaker. So the speaker shouldn't engage in that process. If you notice, I actually was not on the dais much. There was actually an amendment on limiting the speaker's terms. I left the dais, and I want to be very clear about this. I didn't go watch it on TV in my office. I went in the back and visited with my wife and other spouses. The rules are the ownership of the House. But with that said, we've got to put the work in. If we want to allow people to go register in our district offices, let's make sure we know how to make that work and it's effective. And we aren't creating challenges to legislation that we want to pass by not having put the time and the effort into doing so. Rural versus urban, I'll be candid. Part of that is we've got educated women. We've got a different perspective. People choose to live in different places for reasons that I think also then follow a level of philosophy. You get into an urban setting, their perspective on education is going to be different than the perspective in rural Texas. The number one employer in most rural communities is the school district. So if Republicans run around and talk about how much we hate public education and it's broken and it sucks and I just wish we could find a decent school around here, you just basically told every business person in town their spouse does a shitty job. Pardon me. Think about it a minute, And the irony is, to your question that I love, we got to quit acting like we're simpletons. There is a difference between rural Texas and urban Texas, and we should talk about how we understand the diversity and the difference within our state. A school in an urban setting is different than a school in a rural setting. One mistake we always make, from the day I got here, Vaughn, and I don't know why you care about the retired teachers and the teachers so much. They don't vote for you. You're right. They stuff envelopes and knock doors for me. And I met with a teacher principal from West Columbia Elementary School yesterday, and she says, I live around the corner from you, and I'm a conservative, and she had to make it clear to me that and I said, you have to explain this to me. Most of the people in your school are voting for Republicans. I get it. But that's the mistake we make. We think that we can abuse certain groups and populations, which we shouldn't abuse anybody. That's another thing I think people are sick of. Women don't like harshness. They don't like, not that they can't handle it, but they don't like it in their politics. And they don't reward it, nor should any of us. But so when we think that we're being cool and we're promoting an issue by attacking somebody, we're turning people off. In that rural urban, when we're attacking schools, you're attacking my wife. Not literally mine, but yes. And that's a problem. Anyway, enough, sorry.
All right, and
are these all your questions, Jason?
No. I have no problem taking up the entire time.
No. I just want to make sure everyone else is getting
These guys will tell you, I'll talk. But no,
they told me that, so I was checking.
No, I actually have two similar questions here. One's on college and young Republicans, and one's specifically towards women. what they can do to get involved and help recapture Texas for the Republican Party.
Any way you can help in a campaign, help in a campaign. And I am begging this of you. 2020 is a presidential year. I'm not being funny when I tell you this. This just hit me. Whether you believe me or not, I've not thought about this until this moment. In 1996, I did advance for Bob Dole. He was the Republican nominee for president. I left the campaign to come home and run for state representative. It's a presidential year. Big deal, right? I bet everyone here wants to go volunteer on the Trump campaign. And I hope you will. But in 1996, a 24-year-old kid won by 9 votes to get in a runoff. 9. I've got the twice redone shoes with holes in them in the office. He's now the Speaker of the Texas House. You think those 9 votes don't matter?
No.
You don't think it has an impact? And I'm not saying the presidential race doesn't matter. We've seen that. We got two new Supreme Court justices because it matters. I actually think God led us to the Trump presidency for the Supreme Court. With that said, Trump matters in 2020. Presidential election matters. I'm not near suggesting it doesn't. But get involved in a race for state rep. Get involved in a race for sheriff. Get involved in a race for JP. Get involved in a race for Congress. Just get involved and be active. The other thing you're going to see in 2020 that I'm proud of, you will see the highest level of cooperation and coordination from a local, state, and federal level of candidacy and grassroots that you've ever seen. I've already had conversations with Senator Cohen. Governor Abbott is committed to helping in every way. He was an extraordinary. I've never seen a governor be more supportive financially and in every way possible in legislative races than Governor Abbott was in 2018. As I like to tell members, we lost 12. Go thank Greg Abbott for not losing 15, because the last 3 were because he saved us. And you're going to see that again at an even better level than you saw last time. But just get involved. Support a campaign. Support a candidacy. We need workers. Don't take this good, bad, or indifferent. A lot of our Republican women in our clubs, they look at me and say, I'm tired. I've been doing this myself for 30 years. Where's the reinforcements? Y'all are the reinforcements. We need door knockers. We need phone makers. And more importantly, and I'm going to say this, and I don't even know it, I'm telling you, but you do. Campaigns are very technological now. Advanced analytics. Y'all know what that is. I don't. Come explain it to us, or don't even waste your time. Just do it for us. Better or Work did phenomenal because of all the text messaging stuff. It's the first time we saw that. Their text messaging stuff was brilliant. We need your minds too, not just your youth and enthusiasm and your effort and energy. We need your minds. So bring the technology with you. But get involved in a race, please.
Why do you think conservative values are unpopular with millennials? And what can we do to help rebrand?
Well, because I think millennials, and I'm the last guy to try and explain a millennial, but I think millennials have a different perspective of the world. I mean, in fairness to millennials, I think, and I want to be clear, you asked me the question, I just answered. This isn't necessarily my position on life. I think millennials have a very different social view. I think millennials' attitude is, get the hell out of my life and let me and my friends do what we want. Quit telling people what to do. And why are you guys so caught up in all that? And millennials, to their credit, a lot of people my age and older want to say, well, they're lazy and they're difficult. I don't think that's true. Millennials are frankly more altruistic than any generation. Millennials, frankly, are more concerned about a better world and a better place than career advancement, which we then, because we're all so programmed, we think that's lazy. I mean, that's like the old mom or dad saying, oh, you gotta, get some ambition, kid. Well, their ambition is to start a charity that saves the world, right? I think it's a different mindset, and it goes to the whole point. We've got to learn how to talk to people better. And we fall guilty of talking at people a lot of the time. But I think millennials, have a very different perspective, because also we live, whether we love it or hate it, we live in a different world now too. And a lot of the social issues, they're more used to. I mean, I probably shouldn't go down this road, but the truth of it is, I'm 46. When I grew up, the odds of me knowing that I was in college with someone who was openly gay was rare. Hardly ever happened. Now, a millennial probably says, Logan's telling us we're running out of time. So a millennial probably goes, I had all kinds of friends in college or in high school or wherever that were gay and this and that. Quit beating them up. Quit knocking them. Yeah. It's a familiarity. And the reality is, society is changing in that regard. And so we have to recognize that, whether we like it or not. We have to recognize it. And I think that's part of what's happening.
Thank you so much. And don't we have time for one more question? So I apologize. I'm not going to be able to get to everything because I want to ask you, these are our priorities. I know you've not had a chance to look at those over. I don't know if your office got them to you or not. Some of them are very bipartisan. Some of them are very core Republican issues. We are very passionate about all of them. We're willing to work with anybody we can. What can this body do? What can one person, some here are young Republicans, some here with TPPF, appreciate everybody being here. What can young Republicans do, whether they're coming here as an individual or as a small group, and make a difference in that building for the next 4 months?
The most significant thing you can do is articulate your issue and your position intelligently. I've never seen an angry mob succeed. Not that I'm suggesting that's the way you would go about it. But put these bright, intelligent young faces to the issue and talk about it with the facts and the information and the knowledge that you have behind you. Don't threaten, don't yell, don't cajole, because frankly, most people don't respond well enough, especially in the Capitol. It's true. And I'll give you an example. I see, you're just glancing, the cannabis reform. And it goes to the millennial issue too. I've got a constituent who is actually doing well now, thank God. Battled cancer for years, and she was a fantastic advocate for medical marijuana. And as I told her, if you were the face of the issue, it'd change. It would change. And she would even say, I don't like these potheads that are riding on my back to get somewhere. And I said, that's right. If you showed up in Austin, Texas and made that statement and then told your story, man, it'd be hard to tell you no. So come tell your story. Tell it with intelligence and calm and truth, and you'll have success. Thank y'all very much for giving me the time. I've enjoyed it. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. And come see us anytime you have an issue. Thank you very much.
I'll show you guys in a second. This is obviously Texas, made up of many different pieces of the puzzle. I don't know why the star is there. I'm Dustin Burrows, probably has something to do with that. Over in Lubbock, I don't know. But,
can I change it?
You should. No, but just as a reminder that we are made up of many pieces.
That's right.
And your goal is to help bring them all together and make sure everyone has a voice.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right, so I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the next speaker on the agenda. My name is Derek Cohen. I'm the director of the Center for Effective Justice and run on crime with the Texas Public Policy Campaign. Now, many of y'all have been around for a while, so you've probably heard James White speak before, so you've probably heard his bio before as well. But I want to tell you another story that he's integrally a part of. In 2007, Texas was facing a crisis. We were one of the fastest growing, largest prison systems in the nation, and there was no sign of stopping. We actually got to a point where we had trouble procuring the cement to build the brick and mortar facilities in order to keep up with capacity. In 2005, a realization was made that we need a different way. That was when Jerry Madden was appointed to be the chair of the Corrections Committee. Now, the first attempt at kind of reprioritizing the criminal justice system in Texas, it didn't go over so well. He jumped in about mid-session, and as we all know, when something starts mid-session, it's already dead for the next session. But he tried. He convened stakeholders and worked on it in the interim. In 2007, Texas passed landmark reforms that to this day is the model of the model for the national criminal justice discussion. In fact, the Federal First Step Act modeled almost entirely everything that they did at the federal level had an analog that happened here in Texas. And now that legacy continues with Chairman White. Chairman White was a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. He has his bachelor's from Prairie View, his master's and PhD from the University of Houston. He graduated with a PhD in 2012, so apparently getting out of grad school, we thought that running for elected office would really keep up that pressure that one gets in their PhD program. In 2017, he was named the chair of the Corrections Committee and follows in a long line of folks who understand that corrections in Texas needs to be done appropriately with an eye toward, above all, public safety. We want a correction system that corrects, that makes our streets safer, that does so in a compassionate way, and also allows for rehabilitation and redemption. This is not a progressive model like California. It's a constitutional model that values human dignity. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chairman James White.
And glad to see y'all. A lot of youth, a lot of energy, a lot of high energy. We need a lot of that in Austin. Some of these folks can downright put you to sleep at this Capitol. But thank you so much. And I'm just going to probably throw a few things out there and probably try to use the balance of my time to address as many of your questions or listen to as many of your concerns as possible. When I came to the legislature in 2011, I thought corrections would be the last thing I would need to have any focus involvement. But we nevertheless found ourselves on the Corrections Committee back in 2011. And let me tell you, if those of you out there, I think all of you are in this position, or in this position, if you have a real concern about the growth of government, the scope and power of government, criminal justice is the subject of the topic for you. When you look at some of the growth on the federal level and some of the growth on the state level, as far as money spent, people involved, government agency growth, this is a real place you need to go. I know we like to focus on the TANF, we like to focus on all the social services and whatnot, but even for Republicans, sometimes criminal justice is like the national defense, or it's like the police. We're not supposed to touch that, probably because we think those people vote for us more than they vote for other people. So we don't touch their spending. We don't do a lot of questions about what they spend and what they do, because that's national defense. I used to be involved in national defense. Okay, I'm a veteran. If you are a constitutionalist, or as some would say, there's some out there that say they're a civil libertarian. All right, criminal justice is where you need to focus your attention, because the Constitution should matter. Obviously, for all of us out here that are very concerned about our Second Amendment rights, very concerned about our religious freedoms, well, the point is, if you can't be concerned about those that can't help themselves with their constitutional rights and liberties, what do you think happens to us in our legitimacy, in our legitimacy when we talk about our constitutional rights? Those of us that say that we are believers, this is where you need to be. This is the lane you need to be in criminal justice. Interestingly, I tell a lot of my liberal friends, I think in Matthew it says that Jesus said, "Did you come see me when I was in prison?" Let's say, "Did you come see me and let me out?" Okay. He said, "Did you come see me when I was in prison?" But You caught that, didn't you? Okay, because I got some folks that think we ought to be letting them all out, okay? I don't think that's what David said in the Bible, but here's the deal. If you're a believer, this is a lane that you need to be in. Obviously, I did a quote out of the scripture of Matthew, but what fascinates me about this policy area is even those of us, if there is a such thing as a conservative Christian, a Christian conservative, is how many Christians or how many Christian conservatives that really don't believe folks in the criminal justice system deserve any type of mercy. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the Jeffrey Dahmers necessarily, the DERS, the people who just mass murder a whole lot of folks. I'm talking about folks who violate some of the most violate a crime, a Class B misdemeanor, maybe having a small amount of marijuana possession, maybe driving with license invalid. Those are offenses in the state of Texas. And across the board, we don't tend to see a lot of compassion. We don't tend to see a lot of mercy for those people. Okay, but then at the Church of Christ, on the House floor, people doing all types of hand signs. At the First Baptist on Sunday mornings, it's amazing how people walk out and probably have done adultery and slapped their wife, and they say, "Well, I went to the altar. I'm cleansed. The blood of Jesus." But when it becomes people that are trapped in the criminal justice system, it seems that there's no mercy or justice for them. So if you are a believer, this is a lane for you. So let me just give you let me just tell you how dichotomous this is for a conservative. TDCJ it is the largest state employer in Texas. It is our largest state employer, 38,000 FTEs. So I know most of us are more familiar with the men and women in gray who go in and guard the justice involved throughout the day, but there's some people that stand behind them and do a whole lot of other stuff. 38,000. To put that in context, the next peer state agency, FTE-wise, is MD Anderson at about 18,000 FTEs. 38,000, $7.3 billion. We incarcerate 146,000. That's about 12,000 less than when I came into the legislature in 2011. 145 to 146,000. And that population has remained relatively stable over the last few years, and about, on an average, $62.34 a day. It's very difficult for you to find a $62.34 a day hotel if you were staying overnight for this little conference here. That comes out to a $22,754 yearly cost for each incarcerated justice involved. Now that's an average, because getting very, very deep, and I'm not supposed to get very, very deep in this, maybe this will come out in the questions and answer period, but understand this. The average age of a justice involved incarcerated is about 39 years old. These folks haven't been living a club man life. They've been dodging bullets. They've digested all types of drugs and other things. They've led very risky lives. So even chronologically coming in at 39 years old, biologically, their bodies are older. And yes, you buy their medical costs as well. So that $62.34 a day is really an average. When you add those inmates that are mental illness, behavioral illness, all types of medical ailments, this gets to $100, $200, $300. I think my top 10 all-stars for medical costs, the top 10 runs the taxpayers about $1.9 million per year. Walking through UTMB prison hospital. It is fascinating. Wheelchairs, not one, what do you call this, one cane, two canes, maybe needing 3 canes to walk around. Very, very fascinating. 92% of the justices involved that are incarcerated, 92% are male. The balance, 8% are female, stretched out over 104 facilities throughout our state. Now, we have 84,000, that's remained roughly stable, 84,000 that are on parole, so they have done a portion of their sentence in incarceration. And then, my friends, they're reviewed as far as their programming, their success in the incarcerated environment, and maybe they win parole. So we're watching about 84,000 on parole. That costs you about $4.39 a day, about $1,600 a year. Then we have about 154,000 on probation. Okay, so they committed a misdemeanor, that's felony probation. So they committed a felony. It was thought that they could do their term of service in the community, okay, with programming and other conditions. That's about $154,000 and $3.75 a day, about $1,400 a year. Now, we do have about 77,000 on misdemeanor probation. That number has plummeted from about, oh, you found it. I didn't know we were going to the same spot. I didn't know, okay. About 100,000 and back in 2014 were on misdemeanor probation. Now it's about 77,000. Very fascinating. My committee has charge over a lot of big government. Obviously, TDCJ, the Office of the Inspector General, Prison Rape Elimination Act Ombudsman, the Internal Audit Division, probation, parole, correctional health care, Special Prosecution Unit, Texas Civil Commitment Office, and Wyndham School District. We have our own school district, okay? So I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican that is oversighting a lot of big government. And just think about it, we are watching a lot of people in Texas, almost 500,000 people that we're watching either incarcerated, on probation, or on parole, okay? So again, if you're concerned about the growth of government, the scope of government, you should really look at criminal justice. As I tell our local government colleagues, you know, they like to talk a lot about unfunded mandates. The biggest unfunded mandate is the Texas Criminal Code. Because where's the first stop on everyone that offends one of our laws? The first stop is either at the city or county jail. And that's what? All property taxes. All property taxes. So I always ask my sheriffs, my mayors, my county judges, why are they not in the corrections committee? Why are they not in criminal jurisprudence committee? Why are they not putting their focus there? Because there's a lot of unfunded mandates, a lot of big government, a lot of property taxes that are spent before they even get, if they get, to TDCJ. Let me just give you a snapshot on some 10-year data points. Okay, so when I came into the legislature about 10 years ago, we had 112 facilities and private lease beds. We have no private lease beds now and only 104 facilities. Again, we're about 156,000 incarcerated. Today we're at 145,000. We had about 14,000 in state jails. That's like a state jail felonies. We can get into that if you ask a question about it. Now we're about 7,400. We had roughly 8,800 that were incarcerated, but because of the conduct in prison because we were scared about we were concerned about their safety. We had about 8,800 in administrative SEG, better known as ad SEG. Today, we only have about 4,100. Our recidivism rate when I came into the legislature, that's were they rearrested, reconvicted, and sent back to TDCJ, that was 28.2% when I came into the legislature. Today, it's 20.3%. We're carrying about 6,000 more on parole than we did 10 years ago, which was at about 79,000. We're up to about 27,000 successful parole completions from 21,400 10 years ago. Here's, you wonder why the cost seems to continue to go up, even though incarceration is going down. Convictions are going down. Okay, I know you're hearing a lot of stuff in the media. It's because the media usually shows the murder the first 3 minutes of the movie. So the assumption is all this stuff is up. Crime is up. Actually, we find out it's over, it's not. I mean, there's a reason why some of these numbers are down. We just haven't found as many people to round up. But anyway, this is the reason why some of these costs are going up. We have about 2,200, back 10 years ago, mentally ill offenders. Today, we're up to about 28,000. Okay. Offenders over 55. 10 years ago, we were at about 11,000. Today, we're almost up to 20,000. And so you wonder why your healthcare costs in person. I had a lady give me a call. No, she didn't give me a call. She actually, she was a retired teacher, a victim of crime. And she wanted to know, why are we providing all of this medical care for these people that are incarcerated? And again, folks, those of you out there, I'll probably tell you in your left pocket, pull out your pocketbook Constitution. Most of you will probably whip it out real quick. I'm not going to whip mine out real quick. I'm going to take it out and say I haven't had it on the cell phone, right? Okay. Well, following the Constitution, if you say you're a constitutionalist, that's just not following the Constitution for the things you like or the people you like, but following the Constitution is for everything. So there's a certain little thing in the Constitution called the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment has directed us that we have to provide the adequate, not club med, but the adequate care possible or reasonable for folks that are inside. As my friends at TDCJ will say, it's roughly about if this was a healthcare policy, as far as our incarcerated involved, it would be about a $331 a month healthcare policy. So actually, we're doing it. UTMB and Texas Tech, their medical centers handle our medical care. They're doing it at a very good cost. I don't think anybody out here has a $331 healthcare premium for their healthcare. So we have to do these things, and obviously, if the cost of medical care is going up, people are getting older. As they're getting older in free society going up, then we've got a problem, and we're wrestling with the same issues. So I have to just tell the retired teacher, we don't have to. Let me give you an example of that real quick. We had an inmate due to some religious challenges did not want to have some type of transplant, organ transplant. The doctors at TDCJ, UTMB said, hey, if we do the transplant, that is adequate medical care. This particular incarcerated justice involved said, no, I've got this religious thing going on, and I shouldn't be doing transplants. I think that case is still winding its way through the federal courts, but our contention is this is the adequate. We're only required to do adequate care, not to meet some of these other extraneous requirements that people may come up with. So before I open for questions, if I still have time for questions, I'm just kind of doing a real fast thing here. The idea, what I think about the criminal justice system, and that's what it is. It's a system that hopefully first discourages bad behavior. If we're not successful in discouraging wrongdoing, it should punish the wrongdoer, restore as best as possible the victim, rehabilitate the person who has offended our laws, and by rehabilitating, prepare them for reintegration back into free society as folks that come back with their sleeves rolled up, not their hands out. 97, 98% of the folks that we round up and we incarcerate, they will come back to your communities. No doubt about it. We're sending them back to the communities where they come from. So Harris County sends us the most. We, TDCJ, we will send them back the most. Okay, we're not going to send them to my district. Okay, only in some special situations. So when people in Harris County say, why are you sending all these parolees or discharged folks back to us? Because you've sent us the most, so you get the most back. So with that, if it's appropriate, I will just go back across the street and go to my office and call constituents back home, or I can answer questions. I don't know who's running this operation, but I'll answer questions.
I suppose I'll do that. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir.
I just happen to be curious, what do you think are the most important policies or things that the correction system can do to reduce recidivism? I heard you say that you reduce it. What do you think are the things that we've had success with and improve later on?
So the question is, what is the most important thing that we can do in corrections to continue to reduce recidivism? And what I would say, my friend, hopefully we're starting sooner than by the time they get to me, okay? Because my committee, I have to remind people, my committee pretty much picks up once they're a convicted felon. Doesn't mean that we're not worried about them before they become a convicted felon, but that's what our committee charge, we pick up a convicted felon. Hopefully, my friend, we're starting with strong family values. We got to keep saying it, folks, as conservatives. We have to keep saying it. I know a lot of people want to get off that, but we have to keep saying it. A lot of the issues that we have stem from, our families are just not strong. So hopefully we start with supporting, talking about, campaigning about how important it is to have strong family values. Education, regardless of how we deliver it or how we decide to deliver it, we've got to have strong education. I think there's something to say there. When I look through my data and find out that those men and women that come to TDCJ as convicted felons, their average reading level is between 3rd and 5th grade. Okay? We must continue to effectively, in an efficient manner, improve our child protective services system. Let me tell you, we have a dual matriculation system in this state. It starts with good families, good education, and then moving on to the workforce, small business, et cetera, right? Then we've got another matriculation. It starts with failed family systems, kids aging out of failed family systems into the CPS system, aging out of the CPS system into the juvenile justice system, aging out of the juvenile justice system into the TDCJ system. So we have to get more people over into the former matriculation and not fewer in this other matriculation system. So it's all of that continuing to encourage, facilitate a strong economy. There's something to be said that most people that come to the TDCJ as felons, they're coming to us low educational attainment, low job skills. Got it? Okay. So we have to do all of that. So hopefully we're doing stuff before they even get to us. But once they do get to us, and I forgot one more important thing. You know, we talk about freedom, we talk about family, but hopefully before they get to us, we're promoting faith. Big F. Faith. Not faith. Faith. And so that sort of thing. And so that's what we try to replicate in a very interesting way in the incarceration system of those elements there. So hopefully, my friend, we start addressing these issues before they even get to me. By the time they get to me, we're already into this thing, $30,000, right? Okay? All right. Next question. Yes, sir.
What are you guys addressing in your committee this year? What's the big issues?
Yes, what are we addressing? Issues. One, as conservatives, we got to go look at stuff that's not working right, that's not working efficiently. This is a big government operation, right, called TDCJ. We have a scenario called state jails. And really, this is interesting. State jails was really Texas's, maybe the nation's, first strike at criminal justice reform. So it was the idea that we carved out a number of offenses, small, hard drug possession amounts, cocaine, meth, yada, 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 right? Bad check writing, theft, auto theft, property crimes of addiction, crimes probably encouraged and driven by some type of addiction, a DUI the first or second time, all of that, right? And that we wouldn't put those people in the big house where they would really learn how to graduate and come out of prison as better persons. So we would have a state jail system where we would provide rehabilitation, treatment, mental health programming, behavioral programming. And like most government programs, my friends, it sounded pretty good. Like most government programs, it starts off pretty good, and you go back 5 years and you said, that's not my bill. That's not how my bill was supposed to work. So over time, it became just another warehouse. Its rearrest rate is in the 65, 70 percentile. Its recidivism rate is in the 50, 60 percentile. We will say that is a what? A government failure. So we want to go in and do some reforms there. What's important here, Mr. McKellen, that we go, I understand we have to work with the stuff deep into the system, but we need to go and look at some of the things early in the system. We need to look at bail reform. Yes, bail reform. I don't know if there are any, they seem to follow me around to see what I'm saying. I don't know if there are any people in the bail industry out here, the bail industry lobbyists, but we have to look at this. And it's not the bail industry lobbyists, it's not their fault. It's not the bail's fault, because the Texas Constitution does not charge the bail bond people with setting bail in conditions of bail. It charges the courts in conjunction with district attorneys and other judicial stakeholders and executive branch people to do bail. So we have to get a stronger bail system that ensures that we're not jailing people locally just because they can't come up with $300 to make $3,000 bail. Okay? What is this for?
No, it's true.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that means. You know, get the heck on. Okay, get the heck off the mic. So we have to make sure that's the case, and we have to also make sure that some Pablo big-time drug dealer mastermind, just because he has $1 million stashed away in a mattress somewhere, he doesn't show up and give that to the bail bond guy and gets out, and he can continue his criminal enterprise just because he can come up with the cash. So that's something we're going to have to look at. We need to give your local communities more tools to work with a lot of our folks that are struggling with these addictions in the community, and get them out of the county jails where they're deteriorating
and running up the cost on your property taxes. And this is not a dig at anyone. We're okay with the governor, lieutenant governor, speaker's property tax issue. But hopefully, those of you that are promoting that, a 2.5% rollback, it's a rollback, it's not a cap, rollback rate on property taxes, hopefully you are showing up to the corrections committee, you're going to talk to appropriations chair Zorwas and finance chair in the Senate, Nelson, and you're asking them, we need more dollars locally to get these people out of our jails and into mental health treatment and in behavioral health treatment. That's what you should be doing as well as conservatives, and not just talking about the 2.5% rollback, because it all has to work right, okay? Also, my friend, I think I call it small tyranny. We've got a lot of, everybody focuses on the big tyranny, right? You can't carry a weapon. You're a law-abiding citizen. You can't. That's big-time tyranny, right? Property tax. I'm loaning or renting my land from the county. I'm renting my land from the city. I know all the conjecture too, because I've been on the campaign trail. Also, what we have to look at, folks, is there's a lot of small tyranny, and this is the measure of leadership. And let me get to my lecture phase here. There was one time in the Republican Party, about 25, 30 years ago, where our focus, and I'm not saying this is necessarily you, but I do a lot, I just watch and I think about the Republican Party today in Texas and the Republican Party back in the late 80s and the early 90s. You think about the convention was a family event. You think about the issues that we talked about. There were issues that we talked about that really we couldn't benefit from. Some of us probably couldn't benefit from having more school choice because we've already graduated and we've been blessed with a great education. Many of us really couldn't benefit that much from tax reform and tax relief because we were already blessed. And there was a time when we focused on people and focused on solutions for people that probably really didn't even probably vote for us. And as Republicans, we're going to have to get back to that. There are a whole group of people out there that may not vote, may not even vote for us, but they're trapped in what we call government debt. Phil McClure, he's a furniture man back in Whitwell. He says, James, I can't jail anybody for not paying their loan back to me for furniture, but why does the state, why does the city, why does the county, why do they get to jail people when they miss a payment on a traffic fine or a driver responsibility program surcharge payment? True leadership, those of us that have been in the military know that true leadership is when you reach out and you lead people that maybe don't look like us, maybe don't share. So look, Jonathan McKellar, big time AT&T lobbyist, right? It's really easy for me when he knocks on my door. He doesn't even knock on the door. I'm already there ready to open the door and let him in. And it's real easy for me to do that for him for a lot of reasons. He shows up in October and in March. You know what those months are about. And he usually has a whole lot of help for the state rep. We need to keep that. Okay. He has a whole lot. So it's real easy for me to help a guy like McKellar. But what about the single mother with the 3 kids? The dad is in prison. She had the busted tail light. She gets pulled over. That's a $150 ticket. And now she has to make a decision between the $150 ticket or lunch money for the kids. And those are the people we're going to have to start back, return again, helping.
And when we do that, and we will do that, what you're going to find out, we're going to continue to get back again winning elections in places where people say that we can't win them. We're going to enlarge our majority. That's really all we have to do, right? We have to start focusing on the issues that majority of people care about. Okay, that's how you win elections. You don't win elections focusing on issues that 2 or 3 people care about. You focus on issues that 2 or 3 million people care about. And there are millions and millions of people. We're right on all the issues, folks. All that big government, I'll say it right here, all that big government in the 90s, I don't have the title, I do have the article on my iPad. I don't have the title of it off the top of my head, but it's a Texas Monthly article that was published, I believe in 96, 97, maybe 98. And it talked about how we went from several dozen prison facilities to nearly 85, 90 in a half of a decade. And the cost went up. And folks, if I go back, maybe George W. Bush was president at that time, but when you go back and look, those were Democratic majorities that voted for those budgets and voted for those policies. The Clinton administration was really the promoter, the facilitator of paying for a lot of government services from fines, fees, and surcharges on poor people. That was really a Democratic policy. So it's time for us to step up, tell the truth, reach out and pick up these people that are trapped unfairly in our criminal justice system and some fairly in our criminal justice system. Pull them up so they eventually become people that support us and people know that we care about the people, which we do. Say, look, I think my time is about up. And that's good for me, and I'll go back across the street and find something else to do. Thank y'all for coming out.